So let's dig in a little deeper to the jury's verdict, talk about what kind of sentencing possibilities Smollett's facing tonight with criminal defense attorney Bob Bianchi and the man who literally wrote the book entitled Hate Crime Hoax, Professor Wilfred Riley. Welcome back, both of you.
Hi, Shannon.
Bob, I'll start with you. What happens next in sentencing? What kind of time or probation or other penalties could he be facing now?
Well, he could have been facing 15 years in prison all the way down to a probation, so the judge has a lot of discretion here. But here's what I think is going to happen. It's probably going to be somewhere near a 3-year sentence that he's facing. Wow. And he got on that witness stand and he lied. And that is going to be a major aggravating factor in the judge's mind. And if I, as a prosecutor, I'm sure they will argue. And as a judge, I think it would be right that you cannot let a guy inflame racial tensions like this, waste police resources, deprecate those true victims of hate crimes who are now not going to be believed as much, and essentially try to game the system. There has to be a message of deterrence here. So as a prosecutor, I certainly would be arguing for some jail time within that 3-year range. And I don't think it's unreasonable with this judge.
This is what Black Lives Matter, a statement they had on Monday before we got to this verdict tonight, said, in our commitment to abolition, we can never believe police, especially the Chicago Police Department, over Jussie Smollett, a black man who's been courageously present, visible, and vocal in the struggle for black freedom. While policing at large is an irredeemable institution, CPD is notorious for its long and deep history of corruption, racism, and brutality. Professor, do you think there are those who will not accept this verdict? And listen, he's been convicted. Why go this far with this story?
Yeah, I think the answers to those two questions tie together. Let me say first that I'm just glad that the person responsible for this assault on a gay black man has finally been brought to justice. But in terms of why Jussie Smollett continued with his story for as long as he did, I think there's almost an O.J. Simpson element to this. My honest opinion is that he believed that a certain cadre of people, guilty, perhaps mostly white liberals, very racialist African Americans, so on down the line, would believe him no matter what he said. People have called this position cynical, but at the same time, we just saw that Black Lives Matter literally took it. They said that there was no way they would ever believe a police officer over Mr. Smollett or presumably any other criminal. And for good measure, they said that policing shouldn't exist as an institution. So I think as an actor, he knew his audience.
All right. Well, Variety says this. The case touched a nerve across the country, coming at the height of Trump-era cultural conflict and combining elements of celebrity, race, sexual orientation, violence, and fraud. The case also became a scandal within Chicago politics, as state's attorney Kim Foxx faced questions about why her office initially dropped the charges in what appeared to be a sweetheart deal. Bob, what about Kim Foxx in all of this?
Give me a break, Shannon. You know, having held that position, I have been apoplectic about this. This is simply where power and privilege shakes the hand of advancement and ambition of Kim Foxx. They presented this case to the good folks of Cook County grand jury. They came back with an indictment, and then she dismisses the charges in that indictment and then tries to say that that's because of criminal justice reform. Well, I had to ask this question all along, and I ask it now. How many black and brown people are being prosecuted in Cook County right now for low-level offenses, where they have been given the draconian option of either pleading guilty or going to jail, but not Jussie Smollett. Jussie Smollett, for some reason, he wound up having all of his charges dropped despite the gravity of this offense. So from looking at it from an African-American community, I would be upset, one, that he has lessened the power of the hate crime statute that we do need, because that does exist. And secondarily, all of those lower socioeconomic poor people who don't have power, who don't have privilege, who don't have great lawyers, they wind up pleading guilty and going to jail. But Jussie Smollett drops the charges and she tries to justify it. It's a disgusting abdication, and she should be removed from office. And I don't say that lightly. This was naked political ambition here. And I'm glad that the jury came back, because it came back with 2 verdicts today. One verdict on Jussie Smollett and another one on Kim Foxx.
Listen, Professor, you literally wrote the book on this, Hate Crime Hoax. So talk to that point about the fact that people who are actual victims of a hate crime, that cases like this hurt them.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with the counselor. I mean, this is the major issue. This is also true for example, false allegations of sexual assault, any race crime, so on down the line. These crimes actually happen. They happen frequently. So when someone plays a clown stunt like this, it affects everyone who's bringing a claim like this before a police department like the CPD. And I will say, although there obviously are very many real hate crimes, virtually every one of these very high-profile public stories, whether it was a crime or an incident, Erica Thomas, Covington Catholic, Nikki Jolly, Grand Rapids, you can go back to Air Force Academy, you could even go back to Duke Lacrosse, has simply not turned out to be completely true. Althea Bernstein, many were entirely falsified. And yes, that obviously affects how the real victims in a city like Chicago, poor individuals, perhaps African American, perhaps Italian American, perhaps just Americans who are bringing these stories forward, are going to be treated.
All right, Professor, you make excellent points, and it's a fascinating book. Thank you to you and Bob as well. We'll see you again soon.
Thank you, Shannon.
Well, breaking